Harmy, we first discussed what happens when, if and when Ben Stokes got injured as a captain, and you said it. You said many months ago it'll be a nightmare. There's the captaincy thing, and as I said, I mean, Ollie Pope's the vice captain, so we can ask whether he's ready for the job or not, but he's got it. Um, and how do England replace Ben Stokes? I mean, he's irreplaceable, doesn't he? There's no like for like.
No, there's no like for like manners, and yeah, it made the joke a few months ago saying, well, if he does get injured, he needs to be in the dressing room because obviously they need his mentality to keep driving the team forward. I'm sure he will be. He looked a bit in pain, did Ben last night. I'm looking at it and they're saying he's going for a scan this morning. He ain't playing against Sri Lanka. I've done my hamstring before, and there's no chance at all. He is superhuman. Yeah, I know that, and I'll take that. And I'm sure if he listens to this, he will say that he will do everything he possibly can to get back. But I'd be amazed if Ben Stokes takes part in any of the Test series. I mean, hamstrings. I mean, if you get a little one, it's for a minimum 4 weeks. If you get a sort of medium one, you're looking at 6. And I've seen players, especially in maybe in the football world, but you've got to remember he's an all-rounder, so he's impact with both sort of bat and ball, which will make it even harder for him to come back because he'll have to be, the endurance he'll have to go through. I've seen some footballers take 3 months to get back. I know footballers are a bit softer than cricketers, but this is, this is a delicate injury. I mean, you can't manage hamstrings because at the end of the day, if you come back too early, they go again. So I think that'll be one that I hope the England management do take it on board and go, do you know what? There's no risk whatsoever. Me personally, I don't want the old Ben Stokes. I don't want the Ben Stokes from sort of 2 years that's been hobbling his way through, trying to fudge his way through to get to the next point of a break to recover. I think it's important that with the calendar that we've got coming up at the end of after our summer, that we get a fully fit firing Ben Stokes, because we've seen just a sample size in the West Indies series what it has, what the group is when Ben Stokes is bowling properly. It's a different animal altogether. So Ollie Pope's going to get his head. Yeah, great. I'm sure he'll do a good job. He's got some good lieutenants in there, and he's got a former captain by his side in Joe Root. I'm sure Ben Stokes will be in there as well. Where they go, well, for me, there's only 2 options. I'm not bringing anybody in to sort of that. If it was me, from an all-round point of view, I either pick Sam Curran as an all-rounder. I'd even go one further and potentially bat him at number 6. I know James Smith's had a wonderful start to his career, but give Sam some responsibility and say, right, this is your chance to be the genuine all-rounder in the Test match team. You're going to bat at number 6. You're going to be our sort of 4th seamer, and go that way. I'm sure the 100 will be over the moon that their flagship, star boy, has been whipped out of the 100 for the final part of the competition to play a Test series against Sri Lanka. But that's another kick in the teeth to the 100 again. Or you go with a specialist opening batter. And I think we talked last week about Dan Lawrence. Is it the right thing for Dan to open a baton? At the end of the day, it's the only option for him. He had to take that spot because that was the spot like vacant from Zach Crawley. And they might have to go back to somebody like Keaton Jennings, who's shown in the 100 so far that he can play a more aggressive knock. He is second leading run scorer in the country at the minute with 850 runs off obviously 14 innings. He's averaging 65. Strike rate just on around about 60. He's had 400. So Keaton's in good form if they went down specialist opening batter route, because they're going to be playing 3 Test matches, and then Dan Lawrence goes back to the middle order where he feels more comfortable. So I'm sure they're the only 2 options. I'm not going down to a bits and pieces cricketer. We've got one of them in Dan Lawrence. If we need the sort of, if it spins later on, he can be the all-round route. But no, for me, it's either Sam Curran or a specialist opening batter. And the standout opening batter in the country at the minute is definitely Keaton Jennings.
Well, we spoke to Ollie Pope at the beginning of the season and asked him about how he felt captaining the team if and when that time came. And let's remind ourselves of what he said at the start of the season.
And how much confidence does it give you as a player? We saw in Vizag, I think, ahead of the second test, Ben and Brendan did speak about the pitch and then consulted you over it. So how much confidence is it that you feel part of that proper leadership team, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with that kind of thing, I need to be in a position where if something happens to Stokesy just for a game or two, I'm ready to step up and take on that role. But at the same time, I want to be someone that can challenge Ben as well. And when I'm in those meetings, it's not about just always agreeing with what they say. If it keeps happening in the future, then it's just making sure I give my point of view, because that's what I'm there for. It's sort of there as an extra voice, extra set of ears as well. So I think the closer there I am with Stokesy, the more it can help sort of myself, him, and the team as well. So I think that's obviously something that we want to keep on working on.
And with the amount of cricket that England play in Test match cricket, there will inevitably come a time where Ben has to miss a test or two. How confident are you in making that step up and leading the country, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hopefully he's obviously had his knee issues in the past, but hopefully that's all sorted. But no, I feel good about it. I feel like I've been in this vice captaincy role sort of not for ages, but long enough that, and I feel like my cricket brain's sort of there, and I've been watching how Stokesy sort of manages his bowlers on the pitch and manages the field positions and the placements. So I think if it were to happen, I feel good about it. But yeah, all being well, Stokesy plays each of the tests.
It's Ollie Pope, confident about stepping up to the captaincy role. Harmy, I don't want to put a percentage on it, but if I was to have a guess at what level of fitness Ben Stokes was at when he was playing as a batsman only, I might go as low as 60%. Do you remember there were times when he could hardly turn at the end of a quick single? The knee actually gave way a couple of times. He might even have been 50% fit, and he was playing. So if it is a small hamstring, a slight one, and it didn't look like it because he had to be helped off the field. I mean, it looked like a real bad one to me. But if he convinced himself that he could get through the test match, he could play as a batsman only at a very limited capacity, as he's already done, who would be the person to say, no, Ben, no?
Brendan, he has to, and I'm sure he will. I'm sure he'll say, Ben, you're not playing. And if you said, I am playing, I'm going to lock you in a room. I'm going to get to the toss and lock you in a room, you're not playing. I mean, I think even Ben knows now. I think Ben would be he needed to get to a passage where they had a long break so he could get the knee in a position to recover. And he did that. And I think what hopefully he's seen, that 100% fit Ben Stokes in this team is it completely changes the dynamics of this team. So I think it'll be taken out of his hands anyway, because looking at him hobbling off the field, getting helped off, there's no chance. There's no chance. I'd be amazed if he's even in a position to get some sort of movement through it come third test match, never mind first test match. So 10 days before the first test match, they're all back to back to back. I'd be amazed if we get Ben Stokes this summer, and that's a shame because, like I said before, we've seen the bowling attack with Ben in, just what a point of difference he gives. His leadership when you've got the sort of quicker bowlers on show. It's dynamic. It's watching. I know I keep knocking 100, but I've said many times, I'd much rather push somebody who hasn't watched the game of cricket towards watching Ben Stokes' test team than to watch any game of the 100 because of the way this test team plays under Ben. So it's a shame. But I think bigger picture, and I'm sure that's what Rob Key and Brendan McCullum and even Ben will understand, that the bigger picture is when we get to probably around about October the 1st, when the boys land in Pakistan, the schedule starts to become relentless for that test team. The most important person in that group is the captain. And if he's 100% fit, I believe England can beat anybody, anywhere, when Ben Stokes is 100% fit. That 50% fit, 60% fit that you had before, Manners, I think it's a different team. And I think that's what I would be saying to Ben about the 3 test matches against Sri Lanka.
Okay, finally, you and I are both big fans of Sam Curran, and he is in form. And I don't think there is an all-rounder who's better than him. But there are other all-rounders. So does nobody else feature in your mind?
Not in my mind, no. Not in my mind. Not with the way the dynamics is going to be. If you're going to go down the route of having Dan Lawrence as an opening batter, England have basically played with 4 bowlers in a test unit for the last, I don't know, however much, 18 months. To go back to that for 3 test matches for me. You bring Dan Lawrence back into the middle and you have a specialist opening batter. You look at the Lions group that's been picked. I know it's not the next best, but the ones on there, the likes of McKinney, Yates, Price, your opening batters or number 3s, Keaton Jennings is streets above any of them. So Lawrence would be back into the middle if you didn't pick Sam Curran, and Keaton Jennings would go to the top. You still got, I know you're trying to find, new players, trying to make this team a more of a sort of dynamic unit of power and strike rates and scoring, quick runs. But not for me. Sam Curran or Keaton Jennings would be the one that would be in the team. The rest of the all-rounders, you've got to have one eye in the future, and the one eye in the future is if something happens to Ben Stokes this time next year, India, first game test series, who would I want to go in? If I'm sitting here right now, I'd probably say Keaton Jennings. But at this minute in time, if you're going to go like for like replacement, the closest thing we'll have, and I mean, say closest thing, he is irreplaceable. But the closest thing I would say is Sam Curran, and that would be for me giving him responsibility at batting at number 6 and being that 4th seamer. And you've got the likes of Smith and Wokes not changing their role, batting at 7 and 8 behind them. I think that would still be a very, very strong middle order.
Finally, how would Ollie Pope feel about having Ben Stokes in the change room if he's captaining the team? I mean, it's a bit like a young lad taking his dad's Jag for a drive. I mean, it's he'd be a bit nervous, wouldn't he? I mean, would Ben still be making the decisions and calling the shots from the changing room?
No, I think Ollie would be making the decisions from the field, and I think Ben would let him do that. I would imagine Ollie Pope would love to have Ben Stokes in and around. That's going on. The one thing you've got to, I think we've got to put into the whole context of this. Ben Stokes has backed every single one of them players. I mean, to the hilt, and his biggest one, he's probably backed more than anybody else, is Ollie Pope. Give him responsibility in the leadership group. Give him responsibility as my man in the tough job of batting at number 3, and obviously the responsibility of being vice captain. Somebody who I went to a lot, and he does. Man, as we were on the field many times in India, where you've seen Pope, McCullum, Stokes having the conversation. I'm sure Ollie Pope would love having Ben Stokes in the dressing room. Just in case he needs a word, just in case he needs to run something by him. But I would imagine Ben would let Ollie Pope do what he needs to do on the field to be the best leader of this England cricket team, because I think he's going to do it for 3 test matches. Because like I said right at the start, I mean, you said percentages on Ben Stokes' fitness. I would even say it's not even 10% that Ben Stokes will be fit for any one of these 3 test matches.
You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. And next up in part 2, we'll speak live with Gloucestershire fast bowler Ajeet Singh Dale after his call-up to the England Lions squad. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison. And a reminder, you can now watch us on YouTube. Just head over to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and subscribe. And I'm delighted to say that we're joined live now by Ajeet Singh Dale, who's just received his maiden call-up to the England Lions squad. They face Sri Lanka in a 4-day game starting this week. Congratulations, Ajeet. You've taken 17 championship wickets this season, but it's been a slow, steady climb, hasn't it? And it's going in the right direction with this call-up.
Yeah, no. Thank you firstly for having me on. But it's been a pretty interesting last few years. Sort of, I was at Hampshire before, where I was struggling to get game time, and coming to Gloucester, where I've just been given good opportunity, to be honest, and a team full of really, really good lads, and just been allowed to express myself, try and bowl fast, luckily to get the call up last week for the upcoming Lions game. But just trying to take each opportunity as it comes.
Gee, at the start of the season, Rob Key talked about, the director of English cricket, talked about we need pace in the side. I think Ben Stokes is saying we need pace in the side. Was that I'm sure Zaman Akhtar, who is another one that's been called up from Gloucester, did the 2 years sit there at the start of the season and go, might have a chance of playing for England now if they want fast bowlers?
No, like obviously it's exciting when like that's what we're trying to do. Means we're trying to bowl fast. So it's exciting when you know that the international team, the main team, is also wanting those kind of bowlers. But yeah, no, like I'd be lying if I said I thought it'd happen this soon. Like Lions was always like my next goal, obviously. But yeah, I wasn't sure how close I was. So yeah, no, obviously me and Zim delighted to both be called up. But yeah, at the start of the season, we definitely knew that, the flavour of international cricket for England right now is about trying to bowl fast. So it bodes well for us. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said I thought it'd happen this soon. But yeah, no, very exciting.
All right, come on. How quick are you? It's like every fast bowler knows. I know that you won't have encountered the speed gun too often, but you will know what's your quickest ball, seriously, and what sort of pace are you?
No, genuinely, it's hard to say. So Bristol is one of the grounds. I'm not sure which ones do, but we don't actually have a gun on site in terms of you'll go some grounds where they'll have in the county games each ball's sort of being measured and it comes up on the stream. So it's hard to say when I'm playing at Bristol. I played at the Oval last week or 2 weeks ago in a 50 over game. There was a few balls at 90 miles an hour, but like it's hard to say. You always hear stories about like what speed are you bowling, and it's really hard to tell because you don't know if that's an anomaly. You don't know exactly where you are. But I'd like to think I'm bowling like consistently late 80s. Like my goal is to keep getting quicker. But yeah, I'd like to say I'm close to 90. But yeah, the goal is to push on in the next few years for sure.
Manners, I can answer that comfortably from my time as a fast bowler. I did bowl bowls in excess of 90 mile an hour. I think my fastest was about 96 or 97 mile an hour, and it went for 4. So I wouldn't say speed is everything, but that's one of the things. But I can tell you now, Manners, I can guarantee you my fastest speed now is about 45 miles an hour. The size of this body is not bowling fast anymore. But Ajeet, you're going against Sri Lanka. At Worcester, not a bad place to bowl quickly either. I know it's been underwater for like 5 months of the year, but Worcester's normally got a little bit of juice in it. Is it as simple as, you go and you're in the shop window, you go against the team that's touring, they're trying to prepare, and if you get a couple of wickets, show that you can play international against an international attack, that fast forward into the international arena might be quicker than you think.
Yeah, like obviously it's hard for me to just come and say like how quickly things can change and when a call out like that could happen. But yeah, for me it's just about approaching this game as another opportunity, just like when I'm playing for Gloucester. And I always like to try and bowl fast and just attack the stumps. It's very simple for me, which is exciting. Worcester's a ground that I've only played one professional game. Then I took a 6 for last year in the 4-day stuff. So I'm looking forward to coming back. It offered a bit last year, so yeah, I'm hoping for similar conditions. Obviously, we've had a bit of heat in the last week, so don't know if it'll be as juicy as it was last year when it was early April. But yeah, very excited, and yeah, excited to join out with a new group of lads that haven't encountered too much. Obviously, besides the lads that are coming from Gloucester, so excited to meet new people and learn off other players as well.
I'm going to ask you about the wicket of Jamie McIlroy and that extraordinary game against Glamorgan. But before I do, I want to ask you about the sort of kudos and esteem being selected for the England Lions. I mean, there was a time when it was, well, I wouldn't say a chore, but it wasn't really like an England A team. When you before they were called the Lions, it was called England A. But these days, and for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, maybe even the last decade, when you do get a call up to the Lions, it's serious recognition, isn't it? I mean, it's a kind of, is that the way you feel, that like, wow, I'm actually being noticed by people who matter?
Yeah, no, definitely. I was a bit overwhelmed when I found out. I got the call from Luke Wright, who's one of the England selectors, and yeah, no, it's a bit of a weird experience. Like the first thing was getting a call from an ex-international player. So for me, that was very exciting. And then to be given good news that, you're going up a level. It's, I called my parents straight away. They were very overwhelmed as well, very excited. So yeah, as for me personally, it was, I was buzzing, like to be recognised as a future prospect, if you like. It was very cool. Just very excited now.
All right, then tell us a story about that. Glamorgan, 592 all out, scores level. Ajeet Singh Dale runs into number 11, Jamie McElroy, and pick up the story.
Yeah, no. So went into that last over. I think they needed 2 to win. Mason Crane was on strike, so I know Mace quite well because I played with them at Hampshire for a few years. And yeah, the start of the over, I was just trying to figure out what they were trying to do, because like was Mace going to try and, if he got, because we put the fielders on the boundary, we thought he was in at this point. I think he was on at least 30 or 40 runs. So the idea was, if we can give one, and then I'll try and attack Jamie. And yeah, there was a few dot balls that he hit boundary riders but wouldn't run. So we're all about, okay, so maybe he's going to take it literally to the last 2 balls. And then on the 5th ball, got a single. Jamie was on strike, and yeah, the standard thing in cricket where it's very tight, so all the fielders run to the bowler, give their ideas. But yeah, no, bangers. Cameron Bancroft was very cool, and Graham Van Buren, my captain, they just sort of said, like, what's your best ball? What's your best chance of getting a wicket here? Because we don't think there's no point trying to bowl a dot ball in terms of like go wide York or something, because you're just relying on external factors like then Brace has to be really quick at taking the stumps off and so on. So yeah, it was sort of literally what I did for the whole over. I was just trying to hit the top of middle stump, tramp him up. He sort of backed away a little bit, got a thick edge, and then Brace took one of the best catches I've ever seen. In the context of the game, it was unbelievable. Like, and just to think, like, that was the last ball of day 4. So the amount of work he's done batting, and then also fielding, like, it was crazy from him. So like, it's his wicket. I was just fortunate enough to make sure that, at the end of the day, it was just a game you don't want to lose. Like, we did so well, and to be honest, it shouldn't have gone that far, but to at least come away with some points was a good thing.
Yeah, it was an amazing catch. I mean, it was an amazing catch, because actually probably the only thing that James Brace is thinking that can possibly not happen here, when he's got one glove on and one glove off, is actually nicking it. And he's probably thinking, I'm just looking at the stumps, I'm trying to get the run out, make sure everybody's in the field. Do I underarm it back to somebody that's running in close by? The one thing he probably wasn't thinking that it was going to happen was actually nick it where it did. So, I mean, unbelievable bit of cricket, fantastic catch. Just talk to us a little bit more about yourself. You left Hampshire, you've gone to Gloucester. Who you worked with, the rise of Ajeet Singh Dale, where you've come from, all that stuff. Is there somebody that you've worked with that you think, right, I'm getting lines of recognition and these guys have helped me along the way?
Yeah, so I think I've had my own like bowling coach. Well, I say bowling coach, he's helped me in all areas of cricket, but since I was 4 or 5 years old. So naturally, from a South Asian background, like the love for cricket in the family has always been very big. And yeah, a guy called Naeem Amin, he's been my bowling coach, my cricket coach since I was like 5 years old. Like just grassroots level, where you just play. It was all about fun back then, and you weren't really thinking about skills and technique. He's been the one that I'd give most like praise to in terms of helping me get so far. He's been amazing. He's now also excelled himself. He's worked in the IPL a few years, and we're both from Slough, so we're both Slough boys. We're both from the same area, and we've sort of grown up together. So he's been pivotal in terms of getting me here so far. And then from a county perspective, I've got to give a lot of thanks to Gloucester. Like, they took me on at a time when, so I had a few years at Hampshire. It wasn't really working. They weren't going to offer me a new contract. This was a few years ago now, so I was sort of in this limbo period where I didn't really have a team. I still contracted to them, but I knew sort of moving on for the next for that winter and so on, that I was sort of out of club, out of contract. And Owen Dawkins, the second team coach at Gloucester, took a liking to me. He saw me bowl in a second team game and invited me to a few of Gloucester's second team games. And from there, they just sort of said, like, look, we just want you to bowl fast. Don't worry about, if you bowl a few bad balls, but just express yourself. Your X factor's pace and go and deliver that. And that was sort of like a weight off my shoulders. It's sort of what I've been wanting to hear since I started playing cricket, it's been quite hard to find that sort of backing. And yeah, then Dale Benkenstein picked up from Dorks, and he basically echoed what Dorks was saying in terms of, yeah, please just you do you bowl fast and express yourself. Don't worry if you go for a few boundaries, as long as you're running in hard every ball. And that's something sort of I've lived by since joining Gloucester. And then into this season under Mark Lane, it's been the same. Like a lot of backing, a lot of support. And I think you can see that from the team performance. As a club, we're doing a lot better than we have in the last few years. And so yeah, it's an exciting period to be a Gloucester player. Sorry. Yeah.
And finally, from me, Ajeet, everyone loves a fast bowler who can bat a bit. So can you bat? And tell us a bit about your other interests. You play guitar, dance, fishing?
Guitar. You know what? When I was younger, my mum always said this. This is obviously when you're a young kid, and my mum was always like, look, like if you want to be like, because I've always wanted to be like a top level cricketer, go right to the top. And she was always saying like, what are you going to do when you're on these tours? Like you've got to have hobbies. Like, so like she would send me videos. Like she started to get into like technology and like phones. So she sent me videos like AB de Villiers like singing or stuff like that. And like you need to broaden your horizons, not be so one-dimensional. But long story short, I do play other sports, but in terms of from a music point of view, I love music, but I can't say I play too many instruments. Yeah, probably pretty boring, to be honest, when it comes to traveling as well. Like, I like to take my PlayStation with me and play with mates and stuff like that. But yeah, and then batting. Batting's a funny one. Like I've always sort of felt like, I've always had this vendetta where I feel like people just pigeonhole me, like, oh, just because I bowl fast, they think I can't bat and so on. But I've kicked on a little bit in the last few years. I got my first class 50 last year, and then I got a list A 50 this year. So I feel like I'm going in the right steps. I just need to. It's one of those things. I just want to put more and more time into it. I'm very disciplined when it comes to fast bowling, so I make sure like my gym work and all the little intricate muscles, I try and make sure that's all ticking in the right way. And so I sometimes find that I don't leave enough time for my batting, but in the last few years I've really made sure to really put more work into it. And that's an area that I don't want to pigeonhole myself in a team as just a guy who can bowl. I want to be able to bat, and of course fielding, which again my game's come on quite nicely this year. So yeah, I'm happy with my all-round game, but definitely want to put more time into my batting.
Yeah, my philosophy on batting, I was there for a good time and not a long one.
Yeah.
The ball was too hard. I bowled too fast. They bowled too fast at me. When it hit you, it hurt. So I was always there for a good one and not a long one. Just finally from me, G, I wish you all the best on your journey with the Lions, and hopefully you get on to further honours. Is that where you see yourself? You talk so positively about the way you want your career to go. You mentioned Dale Benkenstein, somebody I played with, as he captained me for the best part of 8 or 9 years. What would it be like to be captained by Ben Stokes? Because I'm sure that's the ultimate goal, is it?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, like especially just the brand of cricket England are playing. Like it looks like such a fun, exciting dressing room to be part of. So 100%, that is like my end goal or next goal, because I'd want to go and also do well and push on. And the lights are up where you see World Cups, you see everything. So it's just taking each step as it comes. And firstly, just enjoying this week, trying to do well and keep getting better and see where it goes. But definitely, yeah, to play under Ben Stokes would be a big privilege and a big honour.
Ajeet Singh Dale, very best of luck in Worcester. Thanks so much for your time. It's been fun.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. And if you've missed any of the show and you want to catch up, you can download the podcast from the Following On feed, available via the free talkSPORT app or wherever you get your podcasts. And I'm delighted to say that we are now joined live by Chris Silverwood, former England head coach and Sri Lanka head coach, recently back in action, coaching in England as an assistant coach of the Oval Invincibles in the 100. Chris, I must say, people will inevitably ask what's it like being an assistant, having been a head coach, but I would imagine it's quite a relief in many ways. But a little bit
It
less to
is,
worry about.
yeah, no, it is, to be honest. It's been actually really refreshing just to get back on the tools, so to speak, with the bowlers. Get back out there and just get stuck in and let someone else worry about the big decisions for a while. So as in that respect, it's been good fun. I mean, the 100's been a breath of fresh air as well. It's great fun. The atmosphere is great, and to see so many, kids actually in there watching as well, has been absolutely amazing. I know it's certainly captured the imagination of my youngest boy, and he's absolutely loved coming to watch as well. So yeah, just to sort of step backwards, really, come in and joining as part of the team again has been good fun.
And Spoons, about you sort of coaching. You coach county cricket, go into national cricket. You've gone into franchise world, gone from head coach to assistant coach. What's it? What's the difference between the sort of the front end of international cricket and then going into franchise cricket, where you get very little time with the players, but the level of player is more often than not at a similar level?
Yeah, you've still got world-class players in there. I mean, that's a great thing. I think the biggest difference I've noticed so far is that, as you quite rightly mentioned, you have the players for a short period of time. So it's more about the here and now, making sure they're ready to perform in that instance. I think with the international scene, obviously spend longer with these guys. So there's more around development as well, and sort of planning your way through various series, looking forward to what is coming in the future tours program, and preparing for them. Whereas this is, you've got a tournament that's happening here and now. You've just got to make sure that the players are in the best place possible to achieve everything that they need to achieve during that tournament. So it's a case of just keeping them in a good space, really.
Do you think you'll miss international cricket? I mean, would you like to think that you can return to it one day? And Mickey Arthur is a great friend of this program. I've known him for very many years, and he spoke to us about the challenges of coaching the Sri Lankan national team. I would imagine that right now you'll be enjoying some time at home with your two boys, but is international cricket a kind of is it a drug? Do you think you'll need a fix of it again in the future?
Yeah, I've not finished with it, that is for sure. There's still things there that I want to achieve and that I will return to. But I mean, certainly the 2 years, well, just over 2 years I did in Sri Lanka was a really good experience for me to live and work in a different culture. Obviously, having to navigate the language barriers that you get there. Although, to be fair, most of them do speak very good English. The learning curve for me was, we like structure here. We like everything to be in its place and to plan as far out as possible. Whereas in Sri Lanka, it doesn't always work like that. And you've got to learn to be a little bit more fluid. And it teaches you actually sometimes that you can exist within chaos at times, and you can still come out and win within there. So I suppose it helped me relax a little bit in that respect. And obviously different ways of communicating with people, really. So from a personal development point of view, it's been excellent. But like any job, it comes with its challenges. And I think one of the biggest challenges I found was the amount of time away from family. I was spending very little time in this country. Obviously, the kids are in school here, so it's not like you can just take them with you. So it did. I think after 2 years, the family decided it was time for me to come home, really. And I want to spend more time with the boys. They're getting older. They're playing cricket themselves now, so I want to watch a little bit of that. But do I think I'm done with it? Probably not, to be fair. I'm sure I'll dip my toe back in that water at some point.
I'm sure you're not. And when you're now you're working with the Oval Invincibles, we talked about going around the country and you spend a lot of time in different people's dressing rooms. You mentioned about what it like, the international and the county stuff and stuff like that. I'm sure there's a lot of young coaches will come up to you and talk to you about experiences, about what it was like. Do you think, would you be giving people a glowing reference to international cricket and going and doing it to make you a better coach? Because I think listening to you there, you're saying, yes, you've got, you've still got a little bit of to give in international cricket, but do you think not only did it make you a better coach, it make you a better person, for young coaches around the world and around the country, it is something you've got to keep options. It's not just about the sort of the franchise model that's being probably touted about as much at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, listen, franchise cricket is attractive, isn't it? I mean, I was keen to see the inside of it. That's why I was so keen to come and have a look at the 100, really. And I think sort of starting or coming as an assistant is a great way to have a look at the inside of the franchise model, really, and see how it works. From an international point of view, I would encourage anybody to go do it, to be honest. But I would just encourage them to go in with their eyes open. I mean, it does come with its challenges. As I said, if anybody's got a young family, you have to be prepared to spend time away from that family, unless you can take them with you. I do know coaches that have taken their young family with them. There's a coach in Sri Lanka at this moment that's got his family there with him, and they're perfectly happy. But yeah, I think as long as you're going in with your eyes open, you know what is in front of you, and you're at peace with that challenge, then I would encourage anybody to do it. Because, again, as you've mentioned, you grow as a person, you grow as a coach, you put yourself outside of your comfort zone, which is what you've got to do to challenge yourself, really, to keep improving, to keep moving forward.
Spoons, the tragic news of the passing of Graham Thorpe would have hit you hard, I would imagine, having worked so closely with him. Were you as devastated as I imagine you probably were?
Yeah, I still am devastated, to be honest. Yeah, I think the world has not only lost a great sportsman, but they've lost a great person as well. I mean, I've lost a friend, someone that spent a lot of time with me during my time as bowling coach and as head coach of England, who somebody I could speak to. Obviously, when I need to talk to people, he was a great confidant for me. But again, he's a great energy giver as well within that group. And I have fond memories of him telling stories, which I'm sure you've all heard and seen the energy and the laughter that he brought along with that. So yeah, I think we've certainly lost a great person there.
And Spoons, we need to ask you a bit more about the Oval Invincibles, seeing as that's the main reason we've got you here, and the form of Sam Curran. It's a terrific setup. I mean, that's the impression you get from the outside. The Oval's obviously a magnificent venue and a great team, and that Oval Invincibles. Well, it's a good name, isn't it? I mean, they're not quite invincible, but is it as smooth and as efficient on the inside as it looks from the outside?
Yeah, I think, everything about it has just been exceptional so far, from, the service you get at the ground, the way things are run there, the people that you find there. But I think what really makes it are the actual people. The characters you've got around the dressing room. I mean, you've got some lively lads in there, as you saw yesterday with the costumes that the dress that we all came in. And they absolutely loved it. But you know what? I think it shows great character, and I think it shows the spirit that they have within that dressing room. And I think that carries them a long way, to be honest. They all enjoy each other's company. They're all fierce competitors as well, which really helps. When they're out on the field, they fight. And as you've mentioned there, Sam at the moment, he's got the golden touch, hasn't he? Whatever he does just turns to gold at the moment. Whether he coming on, get a wicket with his first ball or scoring important runs for us under pressure, he's in great touch at the moment. And it's, I think at some point, and Zampa, the same thing. If you look at, he's taken heaps of wickets. So there's plenty of character in there. When things are tough, you need these people to stand up, and it's exactly what we're doing at the moment.
I suppose the WhatsApp group of the Oval Invincibles would have been a little bit different to a lot of people's hearts in mouth when they're seeing Ben Stokes walk off the field last night clutching his hamstring, because there's a good chance Sam Curran might be the one that replaces him. Have you got somebody to replace Sam Curran if England come calling at the Oval Invincibles? Because, Ben Stokes is irreplaceable for England, but I would pretty much say Sam Curran's irreplaceable for the Oval Invincibles.
He is at the moment. I think with the touches in, he'd be very, very difficult to replace. You're absolutely right, yeah. We do have some good people that aren't playing, but he's in such good form at the moment. It'd be so hard to replace him.
Spoons, what's Sam's greatest quality? You've seen him through a few different lenses. Me and Manners have always joked on this programme, whenever I've picked an England team, I've got 12 names in front of me. I put Sam Curran first on my list, and then find somehow to put him at number 12 by I've gone round the houses for half an hour because I don't know where to put him and do him properly. My opinion this week would be if Stokes is injured, bat him at 6, be him a genuine all-rounder, give him some responsibility. Now, that's one way of looking at it. But from your eyes, you've seen him with a white ball, you've seen him with a red ball, you've seen him with franchise. I mean, this kid is ridiculously talented. But what's his biggest strength and quality?
I think his biggest strength and quality is his character, and I think he is, as I've mentioned earlier, a fierce competitor. I think he just runs through the currents, to be honest, because Tom's exactly the same. But he wants to be the centre of it all the time. If there's any hard work to be done, or if there's a tight situation, he wants to be the one with the ball in hand or with bat in hand. And I think that's a real gift, to be honest. And I think it's something that, as you've just said, you need to embrace and give him a responsibility of doing that. And we've seen him time and time again when we need a wicket or we need those tough runs, he goes in and he does it. So I think the key point would be give him responsibility, put him in positions where he can affect the game because that's where he's happiest. I mean, he is a fierce competitor.
Final one from me, Spoons. A lot of people were very worried about the landscape of England fast bowling without Anderson and Broad. But what's your view generally? I mean, I think things are looking quite healthy, aren't they? I mean, there have been much thinner times, leaner times for fast bowlers, but there's probably half a dozen knocking on the door now.
There is. I think it's always difficult to say bye to two greats. I mean, them two have been great. I mean, if you think of the wickets, those two, the contribution they've given to English cricket, there's no doubt they go down as two of the greats. But I mean, when one door shuts, another opens. So people usually step up and take their opportunities, and I think we're going to see that as well. As you said, there's some good young fast bowlers out there in this country, and I think you'll see them stepping up and taking on that challenge really. And I think that's what will happen.
And Spoons, just finally, what is it? What's gonna put the smile on your face come this time next year? Back into sort of franchise, keeping in franchise cricket, county cricket, international cricket. What's the landscape? Being a great father to the wonderful kids, all that comes with it. What's on the horizon for Chris Silverwood that's going to make him smile?
To be honest, I don't know at the moment, and actually not knowing makes me smile, which in a crazy way it does, because actually there's a bit of freedom within that as well. Yeah. I've got potentially another franchise gig coming up after this one, which is a short stint in a T10. But after that, I genuinely don't know just as yet. Obviously, I've been linked with the Yorkshire job, but I can honestly I haven't spoken to anybody as yet. I can say that hand on heart. Would it interest me? Absolutely. Yeah, it's my old county, and obviously I have a great love for Yorkshire. But genuinely, I don't know, to be honest. So at the moment, it's just a case of enjoy myself down at the Invincibles, enjoy being at home, enjoy being a dad again and being around for the kids. And obviously just spending time with the family, which is amazing.
Well, the great thing, Spoons, is that there'll be no shortage of offers for a great man like yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks for your time, Chris. That's fantastic.
No,
absolutely
no,
brilliant.
It's been great to chat to you.
You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison. And a reminder, you can now watch us on YouTube. If you're not already doing that, just head over to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and subscribe. Let's talk about the week's other stories. West Indies and South Africa looked like they were contributing to the demise of Test cricket for the first half of the Test match in Trinidad. It was dull stuff. South Africa scored at 3 and over. It was a flat pitch, but I don't think it was a 3 and over type conditions. And then the West Indies scored at 2.5 and over. It did reach an exciting climax as the West Indies held on for a draw thanks to Alec Athenay's Test best of 92. A lot of rain about, over 2 days lost in total. But it was a strange one, Jaime. I don't know how much of you saw. You'd have been packing for Lanzarote, I suppose. And if you did turn on in the first couple of days, you might have turned it straight off again. It was two struggling teams, to be honest. And yet, Test cricket does tend to deliver after a couple of days of largely unattractive, not particularly entertaining cricket.
No, it was. I seen bits of it. Obviously, with David Bedingham playing for South Africa from Durham, and you've got an added interest in what's going on. And when you lose that much time to rain, you are struggling to force a result. The pitch wasn't the greatest. I thought Athenaeus batted brilliantly at the end, just to save the game. I thought they were in with this little sniff of going for it, but the pitches, yeah, you're right. The pitches don't help Test match cricket. I don't know who said it recently, came out and said, look, forget the toss now, like first class cricket in England. I think it was in the second division. Forget the toss. The opposition choose whether they want to bat a bowl. Whether that'll make the pitches any different, I'm not so sure. I can't imagine, Manners, that the pitch was designed to last 5 days. What I would call the old, what I used to call them the chief exec pitches, when you had full crowds, because there was about 10 people watching in Trinidad, wasn't there? So it's not as though they're trying to keep people in and keep a crowd in and make some money off the crowd. If Test match cricket is costing money day on day to do it, then you'd think it produce a pitch which lasts 3 days and you save 2 days money. So no, it wasn't the best advert for Test match cricket. Like I said before, I'd grab, I did in part one, I'd grab people who have never seen Test cricket or international cricket or even cricket itself and go and watch Ben Stokes' team. This is a great team to go and watch. This is cricket played at its best, rather than the razzmatazz of the 100. But then if they turn around and said, yeah, but I've just switched on West Indies versus South Africa from Trinidad, it's the same sort of concept. It's in white, red ball. It's not the same game of cricket, is it? And I wouldn't be able to argue with them, to be honest. So on that, yeah, it wasn't the best. Yeah, look, South Africa looked okay, didn't they? Yeah, they did. They looked okay. I think on a fully 5-day game, I think South Africa would have won comfortably. But their pitches, when they're as flat as that, they're not great adverts for Test cricket.
But see that, and I've really upset a few South Africans by saying this. But one of the things about Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum is that they challenge the concept that you can be dictated to by conditions. When they went to Pakistan last time, they scored at 6 and over in conditions that historically had been 3 and over. That was quite good in Pakistan. You make 270 in a day and you're happy. And I think that, and the problem that South Africa have is because they play so little Test cricket, it's like riding a bike. Once you can do it, you can always do it. But if you don't do it for 6 months, you're not going to take the corners as quickly as you did when you were riding every day or, playing a Test match 15 times a year. Anyway, it was the first draw in 28 Test matches anywhere in the world. Moving on from that, let's hope that the second one's a bit more entertaining, but it's being played at the Providence Stadium in Guyana, so it's going to be even slower and lower. Oh, that's going to be hard work, and more rain, of course, because they're playing out of season. It is seasonal rain. Moving on, anyway. Some appointments are just absolute non-starters, and I when people speculated about Ricky Ponting accepting the England white ball job, I just thought you're mad. And of course, Ponting was amongst a number of players to rule themselves out, or potential coaches. So he's not available for selection for the England coaching job. No surprise there.
No surprise that Ricky's decided that he doesn't want to coach the old enemy. I don't think it's because it's sort of England as such. I can see Ricky Ponting coaching in England. Whether he coaches England's white ball team in the future, I read what his comments were, and I think his comments were more about how he enjoys the franchise and his family's not. It's more of a family decision that if you're in international cricket, you're in it and you're in it for quite some time, and it's very difficult to have anything outside of it. So from that point of view, that sounded like it was a I want to keep the door open. I don't want to shut it just in case I have a couple of shoppers and I don't get another job and I have to go to that England job because it's a very lucrative job that comes with it. But I think at this moment in time, I think he's enjoying the franchise world. And yeah, some people are suited to that. Some people aren't. Brendan McCullum is obviously, he's got a nice work-life balance. I don't think the England white ball job is a too demanding job on your time, because I think you do get a lot of time off. I think Ricky was trying to close the door without slamming it shut, just in case he needs to keep his options open in the future. But I'm not sure Ricky Ponting was in on England's radar from a white ball coach's role. So I think, like I said last week, Manners, I think it's Andrew Flintoff's, and I don't think it's anybody else's. I think Owen Morgan ruled himself out. I think there's one or two who might throw the hat in the ring, but I'd be amazed if Rob Key didn't give it to Andrew Flintoff.
All right, moving overseas to Canada, the Global T20. I don't want to be gratuitously disrespectful, but I'm afraid it may sound like I am about to be. First, the one thing you want is authenticity. If you're going to have a T20 league, you want it to be, good cricket and authentic. And so the Toronto Nationals, who just qualified for the eliminators in 4th place out of 6 teams. I think that's a silly concept, but it's not the only league that does that. But they won 3 out of 7 games, qualified, get bowled out for 52 with extras, top scoring with 14 by the Montreal Tigers. And then, Harmy, we get to the eliminators. Do you know this story? Shakib Al Hasan is never far away from controversy, is he? So there's 2 eliminators back to back, and it's raining. And the first one gets washed out. And the umpires decide the second eliminator between the Bangla Tigers and Mississauga and the Toronto Nationals, who just qualified by getting bowled out for 52. It rains and rains and rains. And eventually it clears, and the umpires say, we've got time for a super over. We're going to decide who qualifies for the final with a super over and no game. And Shakib Al Hasan, captaining the Bangla Tigers Mississauga, says, no, thanks. No, we're not doing a super over. He preferred to get, I mean, honestly, the global T20 is fighting for survival and a place in the sporting calendar. And this nonsense is going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole competition looked a little bit of a shambles. They got a lot of money. I've got some big names to come over, but the standard of cricket didn't seem to be that great. But I don't think anybody cares about the standard of cricket now. I think they just care about the pound or the dollar or whatever they want. So, like I said before, Test match cricket, global franchise cricket, there's only one I would push people towards, but that is not. I mean, a super over, is it better than a bowl off, Manners? Probably. But I think when you contrive it to favour one group and a team that's been bowled out for 52, a team that's finished 4th in the eliminators, you'd expect that the team that's had the better run in the competition would go through. But that's just common sense. And common sense doesn't tend to work in some parts of the world, does it?
There's a great saying in cricket, and that is when there's a contest between money and common sense, it's common sense to put your money on the money.
On the money, yeah, absolutely. And it is money.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about money. Couple of other bits of news. Michael Jones has signed for Lancashire as Emilio Gay completes his move to Durham. Out of contract, Mark Stoneman has been linked with a move to Northants to replace Gay. I think that's healthy transfer news. But we're running out of time, Harmy, and so we've got to move on to the final word. You'd have seen this. Mark Butcher, our mate Butch, was announced as the head coach of the National League Cricket USA. The USA head coach. They announced it on Twitter, on headed paper as such. And Butch replied saying, "This is news to me."
Yeah, that's a weird one, isn't it? Mark Butcher and Mark Boucher do get, they do miss the. Some people do put Boucher in instead of Butcher and Butcher in instead of Boucher. So there is a history of this. I'm not sure if Mark Boucher is the new head coach of the national cricket in the USA. I'm not sure there's many other Mark Butchers or Bouchers in in international cricket. But yeah, when Butch seen the headline, he replied with, well, it would be nice to have an interview or even have a conversation about how much money I'm going to get paid before I leave Sky and tell me bosses, Brian Henderson. I'm sure Hendo's going, come on, Butch, what's going on? I've got you in for the first test match at Sri Lanka. But no, they do get, I'm not sure. Do you know if is it Mark Boucher? I don't know the full story, but it was definitely news to Butch. Mark Butcher, our very own talkSPORT and Sky Sports' Mark Butcher, whether it was a mistake like everybody makes, and it actually is South African's great wicketkeeper and your friend and our friend Manners, Mark Boucher. Is there anything in that?
Mark Boucher hasn't been sacked by the Mumbai Indians yet.
Yet.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll follow that story and maybe find out what's behind it for next week. But we're out of time. You've been listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. If you missed any of the show and you want to catch up, you can download the podcast from the Following On feed, but you know all that, available via the free talkSPORT app or wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll be back at a similar time next week when Harmy will have left Lanzarote to look ahead to the start of England's Test series against Sri Lanka. But for now, this has been Following On.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.